Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this video we shall discuss the Gazette magazine for 9 September 2021, your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. Now, the hot selling articles in the market today are: 1. On carbon sequestration in news because Iceland has had the largest carbon sequestration plant in the world now. Safe City Index released by a global think tank, and India has got 2 cities in the top 50 cities in the Safe City Index. The third one is on heatwave proneness in the country, and the regions are expanding. This day in history we have dedicated to Mao Zedong. The featured news for today is on the approach to refugee crisis. Now, in context of the incoming refugees in India from Afghanistan, we will understand what is the official policy that India has maintained regarding the refugees. India maintains a policy of strategic ambiguity. So we will understand in this context what is the reason for India maintaining such a policy and what is the impending issue because of which India must sign United Nations Convention on the Refugees 1951. We will also understand a brief history of the refugees, incoming refugees in our country. This is on a separate video, and the rest of the discussion is on another video that you're watching right now. Image of the day is on fogging. Terms and concepts that we discussed today are Kurubi Community from the Tulu region, West India. The second one is submerged aquatic plants and the issues that they're causing. The third one is Nipa virus, and then we have Corbett National Park in news. We will know why. Editorials of the day. Today we are discussing 3 editorials. The first one is on the fractured world geopolitics which has come up because of the crisis in Afghanistan. So we'll discuss 4 aspects of it. The second one is talking about the situation of Rupee in the international monetary market, how it is fluctuating because of the trade. And the third one is talking about India responding to the food security. Now, this is in reference to the United Nations framework for discussing the food systems around the world. And then we have a case study. Case study is from Haryana, which is a sports nursery. Let's start the discussion. We have dedicated this day in history to Mao Zedong because it was on September 9th, 1976 that he passed away. He was an important man for modern China because under him lot of communist policies were also introduced. One important policy was Great Leap Forward. Now, this was a system of commune in the agricultural community. Here, individual landowners were asked to build a community, and this community was the one which was to be responsible for agricultural production. Although the system was not very efficient, it failed and China had to resort back. However, Zedong's contribution cannot be refuted because it affects China's polity, economy and society. Snapshot 1 is on carbon sequestration. It is in news because Iceland has built the world's largest carbon sequestration plant, and you can see the image of this plant. It has got 4 different setups of this size, and this is the place from where the air is taken in. Sequestration, the word sequester comes from the word seize, to capture, to contain, and here we are trying to capture the carbon of the atmosphere so that it does not lead to global warming. Right now, this plant has been named as Orca, that means energy, and the way it is going to function is like this. The plant will take in the polluted air, and then it will have a filter, and this filter will absorb carbon dioxide and let pass the rest of the air. The carbon dioxide which has been absorbed by this plant, later this carbon dioxide will be released if this particular filter is heated. And once the filter is heated, the carbon dioxide is released, and this carbon dioxide released will be pressed at high pressure, and later it will be also sent back into the earth. So in the basaltic rocks, it will be injected again, not to come out again. So this is the way we are trying to remove the carbon from the atmosphere and put it back to the earth. There are natural processes also to sequester carbon. Now, for example, the oceans, they themselves absorb carbon, right? So there is a carbon cycle in which all this system happens. But since we are releasing more amount of carbon because of the usage of fuel, burning of the fossil fuels, and therefore we need to have these kind of technologies, right? This is the reason that there are a lot of advantages of using carbon sequestration technology. The first advantage is it mitigates the climate change. This is one. The second one is there are a lot of impacts of climate change also. For example, disaster, for example, human health. Now, those are the costs. Social costs, they are also reduced. So 2 additional advantages of this kind of technology, but there are certain issues also. This technology is novel and it is very expensive right now. Right now, to make it scalable is something which makes a lot of money being invested, and that is why these are the restraints. Snapshot 2 is on Safe Cities Index. This index is released by Economic Intelligence Unit and NEC Corporation. Economic Intelligence Unit is the research division for the Economist magazine, and this index has been released for the 4th time now. It was started in the year 2015. Now, this index ranks cities on 4 parameters. Till now 4 parameters, but this year onwards we will have the 5th parameter also. So whenever you are living in a city area, do you think of security measures for the city? Digital security for that city? Yes, we do. So this is one important parameter. Health security for an individual in the city? Yes. Infrastructure security? Yes. And then we have the personal security. So these were the 4 parameters on which cities were ranked from less to more vulnerability. And we have, it is good to know that in the top 50 cities, Delhi and Mumbai have also got 2 places, right? So the 5th parameter that they have introduced this time onwards is the environmental security. So 5 parameters: digital, health, infrastructure, personal and environmental security. These are the parameters under which the cities are ranked. The top cities in the SAFE index are Copenhagen, Toronto, Singapore, Sydney and Tokyo. Copenhagen is the capital of Denmark, and then we have Toronto in Canada, Singapore, Sydney and Tokyo. India's 2 cities, New Delhi and Mumbai, also stand chance in the top 50 cities around the world which are safe. Now, it has been observed in this index that the cities which are safe to live in, they also have high human development index parameters, and the economy also of these cities is bigger. So there is a very good correlation between economy, human development indicators and the safety in that particular city. The 3rd snapshot is on heatwave proneness in the country. A new study has said that there's an increase in the area in which heatwave proneness is there in the country, and as much as 3 regions have now been encapsulated in the heatwave prone regions. Now, we have already studied one of the reports, the Lancet report on heat and how it is affecting human health. So if you want to know about this more, just type heat Lancet Edukemy on Google and you will be able to find that snapshot. Now, what is about this news? This news says that temporally the area in which the heat wave distribution is there in India, it has increased. First of all, what is a heat wave? Now, heat wave is a time when there is an increased amount of heat of a particular land, hot weather lasting more than 2 days, right? It also results in mortality of that particular area. Now, this report has given a spatial and temporal trend. That means time-driven and space-driven trend of how this heat wave is impacting our country. So, the important highlight of this report is that earlier we used to have the heat waves in the eastern Gangetic belt, and now it has come to the interiors as well, right? So heat wave has started to flow in the interiors, and the 3 new regions where heat wave prolongedness is being seen is 1, the western India belt, the central India belt and the south central India belt. So these are the new places where prolonged heat waves are being seen. Image of the day is on fogging process. This fogging process is the process in which disinfection of the region is done. So this is the image of fogging process against dengue in Delhi. Now, dengue is an endemic in Delhi during the monsoon season, and therefore fogging becomes one of the most important activities, biosecurity cleaning activity. So remember this keyword, biosecurity cleaning activity, and this is the time when the disinfectant is spread in the atmosphere along with some suspended solution, so that it is suspended in the atmosphere a longer time, and it also reaches the nooks and corners, those corners in which the human cleaning is not possible, and therefore fogging is a very important process for disinfection. The first term and concept in news is Kurubi Community. This is the community which resides on the western coast of India. This is in the Dakshina Kannada and Udupi districts of Karnataka. Now we are talking of the same region around which Tulu demand is also there. We have studied about the Tulu language demand and the national and the state demand of Tulu people previously in one of the snapshots. Now, what about this community is peculiar, or what is the demand this time? It has been demanded that scheduled tribe community status be given to this community. The community also has a rich heritage. What is the heritage? The heritage is in the form of the kind of medicines they use in their curing. So they are known for using traditional medicine. This is one. The image that you see in this place is that of Gunmat. This is the place where people are wearing this colorful clothes, attire, and then they have a percussion instrument on their hands. So this is called as Gunmat. Right, and then we have kolata, when men are performing dances with sticks, that is called as kolata. So these are the kind of important cultural activity this community does. The third term in news is the submerged aquatic plants. Now these are some kind of plants which have resulted into lesser efficiency of the paddy cultivation. While paddy cultivation is done, it is actually cultivated in the field by transplanting the paddy crops, right? So when it grows to a particular height, it is planted in those fields which are already flooded with water, and then they are spaced and then put in the water. What happens is that this region is already a very well laid region for the weeds to grow. What are the kind of weeds? We are talking of eel grass, we are talking of najas, which grow in the rice fields. So these are the kind of unwanted weed growth which happen, and they challenge the growth of the paddy cultivation itself. And that is why these submerged aquatic plants are in news. Now this time in Kerala, they have ensured that there be less production of paddy because of the submerged aquatic plants. The third term in news is Nipa virus. It is in news because lately we have seen a resurgence of Nipa virus in Kerala. Now, this is transmitted through fruit bats, which are also called as mega bats. When they eat the fruits, and there is virus in the body of these bats, this gets transmitted to the fruit, and then humans eat this fruit, and this is how they capture this virus in their body. Now this is a zoonotic virus. That means it gets transmitted from animal species to human beings, and this is one of the ways bats transmit it. In fact, pigs also transmit it to human when they are in direct contact with the infected organism, bat or pigs. The fourth term in news is Corbett National Park. It is in news because there has been reported incidences of tree felling, illegal construction around the Corbett National Park. Now, since it is a reserve area, it is also one of the most important tiger reserves, right? It was the first tiger reserve in the Project Tiger, right? Also, it was the oldest national park in the country, and therefore, Corbett National Park, which is also located around the river Ramganga, becomes very important. The first editorial talks about the convergence of four major issues around the crisis in Afghanistan. The editorial starts by saying that 6 countries were invited for the formation of Taliban-led government. These countries were Pakistan, China, Russia, Qatar, Turkey, and Iran. It goes on to say that this Afghanistan issue leads to understanding who is on which side of the territory. Now, this is where it pinpoints 4 important global issues, right? The first one being the conflict between USA and China. This gets highlighted during these times, especially 2021, because since America is now withdrawing from Afghanistan, there will be a flashpoint for the conflict between America and China. This will be Western Pacific region. So earlier the flashpoints have been Korean Peninsula, South China Sea, East China Sea, Taiwan Strait. So this is one. The second one it brings to fore is India's engagement in competition with the China-Pakistan axis. So this China-Pakistan axis working in Afghanistan versus India working in Afghanistan or nearby areas, this is another conflict which is now at the pinnacle because of the present conditions in Afghanistan. The third one it says is about West Asia, the conflict in West Asia. We have already seen how Gulf Cooperation Council has started to break. It has already removed Qatar from one of the important member, and now we see Abraham Accords. We have studied Abraham Accord 2-3 times in some of the other editorial. This was an accord between Israel, Qatar and Bahrain, right? So forming a union. So we have started to see how the global dynamics in the Middle East has started to shape. And now during Afghanistan crisis, we will come to know who is on which side of the territory. The fourth one it says is about European Union versus Russia, the conflict between them that we have seen, especially in Crimea, Ukraine and nearby areas. In this crisis, some countries might support Russia and some countries might not support Russia. So Greece, Hungary and Germany might support Russia in these kind of issues, and France, Poland and Baltic states might not, right? The editorial again further goes on to say that India might seek the help of Russia and Iran in the present context in Afghanistan. So now this is how we see what is the geopolitical alignment of various countries in presence of the crisis in Afghanistan, because crisis in Afghanistan is highlighting the stand, the partnership, associations, friendship and enmity between all these different states. So this is Afghanistan crisis will drive what is going to happen in all these 4 conflict areas, right? The editorial goes on to say that there are 3 important issues. One, Chinese assertiveness, right? This is one. The second one is the interest of Islam in Southwest Asia, so political Islam. And the third one is about Russia's relationship with the West, which is becoming more fragile with time. They will also be impacted because of the crisis right now, right? The second editorial talks about the movement of rupee in the international market. The editorial starts by comparing the currency in the global market of the developing economies. It says that on one hand, we see countries like China, South Korea, Taiwan and Philippines, where the currency has appreciated with respect to dollar in the year 2020. And if we see India, the rupee has declined in 2020, whereas all these countries are emerging market. What is the issue? Now, when there were a lot of incoming FDIs in the developing countries in the year 2020 being a disruptive year, the year in which there was a technology transformation, right? The way in which technology is to be delivered in countries. So developing countries received lot of inflows of funds. China, South Korea, Taiwan and Philippines received funds. India also received funds. However, the currency got appreciated. Now, because there is incoming dollar, so the value of the parent currency of that country will increase. Yes, it will increase. But India saw a decline in the currency. Why? It was so because the RBI intervened in the forex market. RBI intervened and it ensured that the rupee did decline. It was to appreciate just like other countries also, because the value of rupee will appreciate. No, if there is more incoming dollars in the country, the value of rupee should appreciate. But what RBI did was that it sucked in a lot of amount of the incoming dollars and ensured that the value of rupee remains same. So it sucked as much as $90 billion in the year 2020. That means our forex reserve increased 600 billion plus because of this reason, right? But when RBI takes in the dollar, it does not take it free of cost, right? It has to shed rupees. So it shed in rupees in the market. And when it sheds in rupees in the market, what will happen? It will lead to domestic liquidity and inflation. So this is where the editorial says that the rupee has been quite volatile in the present year, but largely it will remain weak. Why will it remain weak? It will remain weak because of America's policy. America policy to keep the dollar flowing outside. So the tapering of the US dollar is a very slow process right now. This is what is the policy in America. So because of this, dollar will keep flowing into developing countries, and therefore the currency, Indian currency, will remain weak in the times to come. Although this intervention of RBI is not sustainable, but still if RBI intervenes, it will lead to reducing the imported inflation. That means import will become less costly. It will also lead to lesser liquidity in the market and lesser inflation in the country. The third editorial talks about India's food security crisis. The editorial starts by talking about the Food System Summit of United Nations, which will be held in this particular month and which will be about transforming the food systems around the country. It has 5 more important components. So safe, nutritious food is the first one, sustainable consumption, nature positive agriculture, then we have equitable livelihood and resilience to vulnerability. So these are the 5 heads under which this food system summit will be held. Now in all these 5 systems, the editorial tries to appraise India. It tries to know what is India's status at present. So it says, yes, green revolution has achieved a lot, but benefits, but there have been some issues also. For example, water logging, for example, monoculture, the groundwater depletion. Is it sustainable? This is not sustainable. We have not diversified our crops. So what is the requirement? The requirement of this present times is that we have high value crops being cultivated. Those crops should be nutritional and there should be environmental friendly cropping mechanisms. This is what the editorial says. And it says that certain organizations like Kudumbashree, Amul, they are good cooperatives and they have worked in the same field. We have discussed Kudumbashree in one of the case studies of Kerala, right? And then it goes on to talk about National Food Security, National Family Health Survey. National Family Health Survey, we just discussed day before yesterday. It is about the malnutrition and stunting and wasting in small children. And we have seen in the editorial, last editorial, that this stunting and wasting in India is of far more proportion as compared to other developing countries, right? And this is where the editorial says that in rural India, the editorial itself says that in rural area, the processed food, like the processed potato chips, they are far more cheaper than purchasing the fresh fruits and vegetables. So this is not a good trend for the country, right? Also, then it talks about increasing the health infrastructure of the country, because nutrition is primarily related to not only intake of nutritious food, it also is related to wash. That means water, sanitation and hygiene, right? The editorial says that solution to agriculture does not lie in agriculture, but beyond agriculture. That means food processing, allied sectors, industries in the rural India. It concludes by saying that just like we have a panel for climate change, there will be a proposal in United Nations for having a panel on food and nutritional security as well. Case study of today is from the state of Haryana, and it is about Olympics, winning medals. Now, out of all the 26 medals that India won this year in Olympics and Paralympics, as much as 9 were from the state of Haryana. Why is it that Haryana is winning so many medals? One important reason is the award that it gives to its sports persons after winning a medal. Not only for winning the medal, even participation sake, Haryana gives rewards to all the athletes who have participated. Right? So this is one reason because of which Haryana produces a lot of people. There is motivation. There is a grassroots support system. Right? Not only for the natural talent, but the talent which can be groomed in times to come. So this is what the state believes in. Also, it does not only believe in the traditional domains of the sport. For example, hockey and wrestling. It also gives chances to new kind of sports. So new kind of sports like shooting, javelin throw. We have seen India gain medals in all these sports as well now. Also, one important thing that can be learned from here is that a person who is into sport should not be forced into any sport. They must be building core interest. They must have core interest, and that sport must be built. So this is what one can learn from Haryana. If you like our effort, do share some love on us through likes, comments, and shares. If you subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates. Thanks for watching.